You know her from such legendary series like Fear the Walking Dead, Friday Night Lights, Treme, House of Cards, Deadwood, and Sons of Anarchy. Kim Dickens has a history of playing badass characters, and she's here right now at South by Southwest for tonight's world premiere of the new Netflix film, The Highwaymen. Kim, thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Good morning.
Thank you.
How
Good
you
morning.
doing?
I'm
You
good.
just came
I'm
in,
good.
right?
Yeah, it's good to be back in Austin. I love it here.
Yeah, well, I feel like you spent a lot of time here. Congrats on this new film for Netflix. It's beautiful. It's a period film. It's full of badass A-list actors.
Yeah.
And I think it tells a story about a really famous time in America a lot of people don't know.
Really? Yeah. I found the story so fascinating when I read the script because everybody knows the romanticized version of Bonnie and Clyde, but I never knew the story of the detectives behind the story of the capture of them, actually, and the capture and killing. So I thought it was fascinating what happened and how the governor of Texas had to get involved, and she had to bring some detectives out of retirement in order to track them down and find them.
You mentioned something interesting. You said she, which is Kathy Bates.
Yeah, 1930s Texas. The governor of Texas was Ma Ferguson.
It's a woman, yes.
Yeah.
And she brings some detectives back out of retirement, and Kevin Costner is one of them. And you guys, your character, they're married. Is that correct?
Yes, I play Kevin Costner's character's wife.
Yeah.
He plays Frank Hamer, who was a old time sort of. They had sort of they weren't as modern as like the police force became in the 30s. They were much more like manhunters and gunslingers, and he became a Texas Ranger. His character is Frank Hamer, notorious Texas Ranger, and he was sort of pulled out of retirement in order to capture Bonnie and Clyde.
Why were they notorious? Because that is a critical...
Because he was, I think because it was a very talented manhunter and gunslinger. I think he was in lots of gunfights, took a lot of hits, but always came out ahead,
And what's interesting is also the Texas Rangers are obviously still around in Texas, and as like a sort of a separate, as far as I'm aware, a separate police force. And so it's so interesting to see that their history goes back so far.
So far, yeah.
Yeah. And in this film, the film starts with, I think you're introduced and established as like maybe one of the reasons why he needs to think about what his future should be versus necessarily putting himself in the face of danger.
Yeah, at the point of that, when we start, he's obviously in retirement, and he's with the love of his life, Gladys Hamer, who I play, and it's a big decision when they come to him and ask him to go out and be in the line of danger again. And I think what was interesting for me with the script was his wife was such a pistol in her own right. You know what I mean? Like, they do have a story that's not in the movie. They have a very colorful story in the past. So for me, for her to have that spunk and sort of strength of character was interesting to play. But you see this woman who knows who she married. And once he's presented with this opportunity by the governor to say, look, I want you to go capture Bonnie and Clyde, she realizes, we're not going to be safe anymore. And he's going back out into that world. And he's older at this point, know. So, but what you see with Gladys is this woman who doesn't like it, but she's not a nag, and she's not going to let him go off and worry about her. She's like, you go do what you have to do. Is
this the first Netflix project that you've worked on?
Well, I did House of Cards.
That's right.
Right. I love working with Netflix, by the way. It's just been, my two experiences with him has been incredible. The projects are incredible.
And so what's it like because you've done television and film, but to now do a film that's honestly for TV with, the biggest distributor on the planet right now?
Right. Well, I don't know how it's different yet. It's not come out. It's not, I've not seen that part of it, but the experience of doing it was like, doing any other film.
Well, it's cool because, and it's exciting in that you are a part of this wave that's cresting with Roma, right? All of these big films that Netflix, that has, that's high art, incredible writers, incredible directors, incredible talent on screen, that Netflix is putting all of this money and effort into, and you get to be a part of that. It's pretty exciting.
It's nice. Well, it's nice to feel so, supported as the creative, you know what I mean? Like, on every level, it's just like, I feel like they're just putting out product that's incredible,
It seems like it's probably creating new opportunities for actors that didn't exist before.
guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely all the platforms have, but Netflix in particular, has sort of embraced the creatives.
Does this film also get a theatrical release in addition to this premiere?
It does.
Yeah.
I believe March 15th it'll be in select theaters, and then March 22nd in even more theaters, and then March 29th will be on Netflix.
Very exciting. So this is just one of many things that you're doing. Fear the Walking Dead. A lot of people are obviously big fans of you. You've gotten to do so many cool things.
I did. I have. Thank you.
And I feel like people get to come to know you at different ages because of all the things that you've
Right.
done. That show, when that came about for you, did you just jump at it, or were you having to weigh options? You're like, should I be on this zombie show, or is there other things I'm doing?
Well, it was a time when I'd finished Treme, and when you're looking for your next show, there is it's like you've got to see what I'm going to be married to. So it is an important decision, an important process to search and find that match. So when it was presented to me, I'd never imagined that I would do that I would fit into that genre. But like I said before, Dave Erickson is such an amazing writer, and the script was so brilliant, and Robert Kirkman's universe is, I came to realize like the apocalypse is something I'd already played. I'd played it in Treme when New Orleans was abandoned by their government for a while, or in a catastrophe, and I played it in Deadwood when you're in a lawless town, and it's like those elements that create that sort of life or death situation for the characters, So for me, once I read the script, I was just hook, line, and sinker. I was in, and then on a daily basis to be kicking ass it's so fun.
That's so interesting that you the way you just pointed out. It never point. Look, when I saw Treme, I never thought of it being sort of the apocalypse.
Right.
But that was really when I kind of like hipped to you, and I was like, who's this chef? Like, because it was compelling to me. I was like, she's a chef, and that's your through line through the entire, was it 2 seasons of the show, or?
We did 4.
4.
3 and
Is
a
it
half.
4? 3.5.
3 and a half, yeah.
And I was like, wow, okay, I'm hooked on the chef. Did you have to learn how to cook for that?
I did.
Okay. That's amazing.
And I didn't know how to cook. I've been living on the road. I wasn't like a chef in my own home really, but I learned a lot. I worked with the greats too. I really did.
There are a lot of greats. Dave Simon, and behind the show, and then just the people you're on camera with.
Yeah.
And I forget the gentleman who was your co-star in that character.
Steve Zahn.
Well, no, in the other chef.
Oh, in Tade.
Yes,
Tade
I
Mawai.
met him randomly one day, and I was just so hooked on that storyline. That's when I came to you and what you do in your career. I want to get to something that your team brought up, which I think is really exciting. There's a Deadwood movie coming. Yeah. This is very exciting.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming.
What can you tell us about this? Because I feel like this is big news.
It is big news, isn't it? It's big news for all of us involved. We've wanted it ever since the show was canceled, which felt sort of premature at the time. We've been sort of teased about a possible movie to finish it up because there were some cliffhangers. So 12 years later or 10 years later, I'm not sure what it is, we're finally doing the movie. So it's done. It's in the can.
Oh, it's done.
I think we'll get to see it in the spring.
The spring.
The spring, yeah. So that feels pretty soon.
Gosh, man, you're in so many things. I'm expecting to see you in Game of Thrones, the final season now.
Hey, that'd be fun.
So I want to get to some more craft-oriented questions in terms of what it's like to be a creative and an actor. And you kind of touched on this earlier, but I'm curious to know, because you have a varied career, and it's long, and it's just sort of really impressive. But when you are choosing roles, is there some methodology you have for picking this over that? Has it changed as your career has moved on?
You definitely have to see what you connect to, or what you think you connect to, and that's usually what it is for me. And I also have this feeling, it always feels like the project finds you as well. And in a way, when you start working on it, or when I've started working on a project that I've taken or gotten, I start to realize like, oh, this is why this project has come to me, because this is happening in my life, or I can relate it to this experience in my life and fill it this way. So sometimes I find, I don't know what, people say, what do you want to do next? And I'm kind of like, I don't know. The project will let me know.
Was that even the case early on in your career?
Early on in my career, I was like, I just want a job.
Sure, you're just pounding the pavement, trying to make it
I was
happen.
pounding the pavement in New York City, going to acting class, taking the subway to the auditions, and first job I got was called Palookaville, and it was an independent film with Vincent Gallo, and directed by Alan Taylor, who's an incredible director. He's with Sopranos, I believe he won Emmys. He does Game of Thrones. He's done Thor movies.
I was a production assistant with Vincent Gallo on a film years ago. He's a fun guy.
I love Vincent Gallo.
He's a fun guy.
We did 2 films together, actually.
Yeah, I saw that in your credits. One thing I want to get back to that I failed to mention earlier is, I failed to ask is, I wanted to know if you mentioned the apocalypse, and I was thinking, is there a thread that you use to connect these characters, like Madison in Fear and then Jeanette in Treme? Was there something like?
What I was saying was that when I took the role of Madison Clark in Fear the Walking Dead, I felt like, I've never done an apocalyptic piece or horror piece or anything. And then as I started to work on it, I realized that I kind of do best in apocalyptic pieces, and that in fact I had done apocalyptic shows before, because I felt like in Treme, which was about New Orleans a few months post-Katrina, that they were living in what felt like an apocalypse, and the more I talked to the people there and the more I lived there, I realized that, they were so long without power, they were in, infected waters, they lost their homes, I was living there years later and there were still watermarks. I know that the government didn't get to them for within a few days. I'm not sure exactly. I don't want to, miss any facts or anything, but that their world felt apocalyptic. They felt abandoned by their government. They felt, like they lost all sense of control or being able to help themselves. And that's part of an apocalypse. And I think it also, so when I realized that it's the stakes, to play, that I realized that those are beautiful stories to tell.
Would those 2 characters get along in real life?
Yeah, I think so. Well, Jeanette probably wouldn't be interested in someone chopping off someone's head and carrying it in a bag, but, Madison did what she had to do, take care of the family. But Jeanette was pretty cutthroat, too.
Do you think that your Southern upbringing plays a role in some of the choices that you make?
In the choices I make, it does only just because it is who I am. Born and raised a Southerner from Huntsville, Alabama. My mother's from the Gulf Coast. My family's from all over Alabama. I just, it's who I am. It was a colorful upbringing. I had a very colorful upbringing.
Yeah, well, the South is full of interesting stories.
Yeah.
I'm from Texas originally, although we're not part of the South. Your career, as I said earlier, so many wonderful stories you've been a part of on TV and in film. And I'm wondering now, as you're looking at what you've done and you're looking to the future, do you have a preference between the 2 mediums? Now that you're kind of in both with this Netflix film?
Right. Well, I love doing both. I always have. The first thing I ever did, I believe, was a pilot for television by Michael Patrick King, who's just a great comic genius. I started in television, was getting films. I've sort of been doing them hand in hand the whole time. And it feels right. And like I said, the project finds me. And when I went off to do Gone Girl, and we were gone for 6 months working with that one character and taking our time with it, it was so fulfilling. And then at the same time, I'm on a series like Fear the Walking Dead for 4 years in 3 different countries, working on it and, busting my body each day. It's like they're just, it's kind of like they're not that different to me.
Although it sounds like you probably prefer some variety, right? It sounds like you like mixing it up. Yeah. Because how long could you
inspired
right?
By the characters,
how long could you do a project before you were ready to move on? And that would generally be a TV series.
Say how long? Well, I don't know. I guess 4 seasons is the longest, I think. So I probably could go a little longer depending on how hard it was on you.
What is it like, or was it like, working with John Lee Hancock?
Oh, he's so great.
He's the director of the Netflix.
Yeah,
film.
John Lee Hancock is, I think, one of the greatest filmmakers. I mean, that man can tell a story in a beautiful way, in a very human way. I did The Blind Side with him as well, so this is the second film I've done with him. So I look forward to a third one.
Right. The future of Hollywood is a question that a lot of people in South by Southwest
And I have all the answers.
Yeah, want to know about.
God.
And we were fortunate to have the Oracle come in. And,
Let me know.
But that means a lot of things. It means everything from distribution, which we've kind of mentioned with talking about Netflix. But it also, International Women's Day was recently, and that's something that's really important to us as well. And I'm curious to know, like, what your thoughts are, especially since you've been working for such a long time. Like, how have things improved for women, and what do you expect the future of women to be in Hollywood as we move forward in just the next couple of years?
Well, I mean, I think we've made great strides. And, if I look back on my career, I've had the good fortune of playing very interesting female roles and very three-dimensional and, flawed, complicated, all that stuff. I've been fortunate, but those roles weren't rampant, but they weren't everywhere. And a lot of times you were relegated to the girlfriend or the wife, and that was not really propelling the story forward. Now it's changing. I feel it. I mean, for instance, I was a mature female lead of a genre show, which that wasn't really the case, on television. So that was a big jump too, I think. And I think it's just the more we stand up and fight for it, the more we tell our stories, the more females and diversity behind the camera, the more the stories are going to be out there. And I think those are the stories that really resonate, because that's who we are as a human race.
I'm curious to know if there are women behind the scenes in director, producer roles that you've been working with or you have your eye on that you think that we should be paying attention to.
Oh, there's so many of them. So many of them. I love Allison Anders as a director, Gillian Flynn as the writer and showrunner. I mean, Gillian Flynn did Gone Girl, and she did Sharp Objects, which I thought was amazing. I've worked with so many great female directors in series that I've done, and I've worked with Roxanne Dawson. I think is incredible. I worked with her on Lost, Treme, and House of Cards. So there's so many great ones out there, and they're just working more and more. So
that's really cool, because I like to look at these after the fact and look up a lot of the people that we ask about. Let's use it as a learning experience for myself. Do you have a lot of fangirls that come up to you who are aspiring creatives in the film and TV world? And if so, what are pieces of advice you give to these women as they're trying to, or even fanboys for that matter?
Yeah, I mean, definitely people come up for different things, you know what I mean? And it's always very nice to hear people be excited about.
Is there any piece of advice though that you are sort of consistently sharing with some of these younger creatives?
If, say, I've met with people and they were asking things like that, and we were talking, I'd say, in my experience, like when I first started, I was in an acting class in Manhattan with this teacher, Dina Levy, and she was my teacher in New York. I have other teachers in LA that I love, Sharon Chatton for one, but I always think it's good to stay in a class or working with a teacher. I think it's good to keep your muscles, strong and limber and all that stuff. But I also think that one thing I learned in New York with my teacher, Dina, was that to sort of embrace the things you think you need to fix. Because really that's the thing that works about you. That's the thing that makes you interesting and sets you apart. Whether it's sometimes people want to get their teeth fixed or change their hair color or their face or get rid of their accent entirely. It's like, I tried to get rid of my accent, and everything I get cast in is Southern now. And I love all the roles, so it's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
But I mean, there are things I guess you need to work on yourself but for the most part, sort of embrace the things you sometimes think you need to run away from.
I've noticed that about your accent is in a lot of things that you do, and I actually like it.
Oh, thank you.
So we are almost out of time, but I would like to see if we can get a peek into what's around the corner for you. What's next?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I'm sort of waiting to see, yeah.
Oh, it seems coy. I feel like there maybe
is
something.
I have a pilot, and you just have to wait and see if those things are picked up and what have you. And the Deadwood movie's coming out, and I'm just sort of taking a little break and deciding what I want to really sort of marry into next.
Okay, but so before your film premieres tonight, what's the thing you're going to do in Austin?
Well, I got to work all day before I
You do a lot of this.
But I got to work all day. But I'm going to see friends tomorrow and eat and shop.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Kim Dickens, we appreciate you being here.
Douglas, thank you.
Your film, The Highwaymen, it's produced and distributed by Netflix, is premiering tonight, which is very exciting. So if you're in Austin, make sure to look it up and go and try to attend.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's a really
great.
exciting film. Period film, if you like that. There's a lot of strong female characters in it. There's actually just a lot of amazing actors in it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
And thank you for watching, and continue to watch all day, southbysouthwest.com/live. Thank you.